Guys, welcome back to the Off-Grid Garage here in sunny, hot Australia. It is autumn. The temperatures are beautiful, just under 30 degrees. We've got nice blue sky. Well, we had nice blue sky, but battery is fully charged for 2 hours or so. I'm recharging all my spare batteries now. We've got negative 15 amps outside. It's 98%, that's fine. In today's show, we want to build a sodium battery out of these 4 cells. A 12 volt. Is it a 12 volt battery actually then? Because we can discharge it to 6 volts. So it's more like a 6 volt battery. Maybe it's a 9 volt battery. That's in the middle end. We are going to build a battery with these 4 wonderful and beautiful cells here. And I also have a 4 battery tray. Salty 1, salty 2, salty 3, and salty 4. Alright, and the tray is already connected down, so all the cells are now in series. Got the main positive here and the main negative over there. We need a BMS. Yeah guys, why not? I've got an idea. That is strong. Three and battery number 4. Perfect. That's what I call plug and play. Still have to connect our main negative to the BMS as well. So I'm just using the good old crocodile clamp. Connect the battery negative and quickly check our balance cables before we plug them into the BMS. 3.55, 7.10, 10, 12.7. Okay, cool. So we can now plug this in, plug in the Bluetooth adapter, press the start button, and let's have a look at the app. This one is it. Okay, and we are connected. Ooh, what's going on here? Cell voltage level 2, soak level, different voltage level, different temperature level. We've got all the warnings. All of them. 0% state of charge, it tells us. So cell number 1, which is our salty 4. Okay, let me reorganize the battery here so it is in the same order as the BMS recognizes them. Otherwise our battery number 4 is number 1 in the BMS. Doesn't make sense. Confuses me and everyone else. Give me a second. Okay, so now it makes more sense. We've got battery number 1 on the right, salty number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. That's exactly how the order is in the BMS. It is just the other way around somehow. It is like this. Yeah, so number 1 is on the left, number 4 is on the right. Now we have it. We have only used battery number 1 so far to do all the testing. So this one has done like... Where's the connection disconnected? Come on, Dali. Is it now disconnecting every 60 seconds? Damn it. So of course we're getting all the warnings now because the BMS does not know anything about sodium batteries, and it thinks the voltage is too high, too low, the state of charge doesn't work, and the voltage difference is far too high. Parameter settings. Where was that? Here, sleep waiting time. It sits on 36,000 seconds. That should be alright. Rated capacity 5. Now it's a 1.3 only. Sorry. Password. What's the password here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, come on. Really? Do we have to press the button all the time now? Okay, cell high voltage protect. This should be 3.95. Set. Oh. Setting successful. Okay. Cell low protection 1.5. Some high voltage protection 15.8. Is that correct? Low 6 volts. Set. Cell voltage difference. Oh, we set this one for 2.5 volts. Set. Charge over voltage 5 amps. And discharge is 3C. There was 10 amps. Doesn't really matter. Set. What have we got here? Yeah, there's of course no sodium battery, so we keep it as it is for the moment. Balance open voltage 3.45, Balance of difference, 20 millivolt deviation. Okay, I think we are all good. It doesn't matter if it doesn't show any state of charge there. This will recalibrate once we fully charge. But interesting to see that I have not recharged the battery after the last test, obviously. So battery number 1, which we have used for all our battery testing so far, sits on 2 volts, while all the other ones are on 3.57, 3.56 and 3.56. So how about we use our EBC A20 tester and recharge Salty to 3.5 something volts. So it is not as alone anymore as it is right now. So here, positive and the negative down here. Yep, it shows us 2 volts. 3.65 volts, that is fine. Cut off 0.5. Yep, whatever. Normal. Okay. Charging with 1 amp. Shouldn't take too long until we reach 3.65 volts with this cell. And then it is roughly in line with the other ones. See, this is a big advantage of sodium batteries and NMC batteries in general maybe as well. We can just recharge cell number 1 now to match all the other ones. So that means with sodium batteries we don't need to do any top balancing anymore. No, there's no top balancing. You can balance at any voltage. I could also just discharge all the other cells to 2 volts now, or we can charge all the cells to 3.1 volts. Yeah, they would be all in the same state of charge, more or less. That's a big advantage when you build your own sodium batteries. Definitely saves you a lot of time, because you just bring all the cells to the same voltage and that's it. That's all you need to do. So, and also something we need to figure out is when do we activate the balancer actually? And I have asked this question under one of the last videos. I've asked the community, I've asked you, what would you do, when would you start the balancer of your BMS connected to a sodium battery? And of course, with this linear charge curve now, it doesn't really matter when we start balancing. So we could go into the protection, no, where is it, cell? Yeah, here it is. So balance open start voltage, 3.45. This comes from our lithium iron phosphate profile. We can literally change this one here to 2.0 volts. The setting timed out or input is invalid. Okay, it doesn't go that low. 3 volts. Set. Please. It says please. Set successful. Okay, let's see how low we can go. 2.5 volts. Please. Ah, successful. Okay, so it doesn't take 2.0 anymore. Ah, now it does. Okay, well, that's fine. So we start balancing this sodium battery here at 2 volts at the very, very bottom. You know, if we have a look at the status display, we should see the balancer. Why is the balancer not on? Dali, come on. We are above 2 volts balancing start voltage, but there's no balancing happening at the moment. Ah, of course not. Dali has got a charge balancer. It needs a charge current into the battery. As long as we charge, it balances. You stop charging, it stops balancing, regardless. I know this is one of these features from the 70s. You remember? And because we haven't connected the charger to the whole battery, but just one cell, the BMS obviously doesn't recognize any charge current into the battery. And it tells us 0 amps, and therefore the balancer is not on. So, okay, let's wait until this battery is at 3.6 something volt, and then we connect the whole battery and see how this goes. Okay, we have now charged the battery to 3.65 volts. Current is still 600 milliamps into the battery. I think we can stop this now here. I have overcharged this battery a bit. I mean, overcharged in terms of it is higher than the other cells with 3.5 volts. So what we can do now is connect our power supply to this whole construct here. Negative to the P minus and the positive to the main positive of the battery. Okay, let's see if we can charge this battery. 200 milliamps, 250 milliamps at the moment. Up to 400. And I hope the BMS will show anything here in the app, because otherwise the balancer does not turn on. No freaking way, come on. What's the resolution here, the sensitivity of this BMS? Is the cell voltage rising? It is rising, but still no current. It doesn't show me any current there. Nothing. 0.4 amps going in. Okay, I'm increasing 2.5. DALI, come on. 0.7. What? Now come on. The sensitivity is, what is it, 1.3 amps? Yeah, it shows 1.3 amps. So we're going down to 1 amp. It shows 1.1. I'm going lower, under 1. And there it turns off. See that? That's insane. Okay, 1.1. Yeah, it shows. And the balancer turns on. And now we are balancing the cells while we are charging, which should actually work with sodium batteries here because of the linear voltage curve now. And 30 milliamps will actually be okay for these small cells here. So it should balance this battery pack over time. And we are balancing cell number 3. But then again, I mean, we are charging this battery with 0 amps now at the moment. What's going on now? No, 1.1. The resolution is just shit in this DALI BMS here. Look at this. There we go. Balancer kicks back in. Balancer cell number 3. What's our delta? 44 millivolt. Okay, and the delta will not increase the higher we charge this battery here, unlike lithium iron phosphate. So it doesn't matter if you are at 2.5 volts or at 3.8 volts, the delta will show the same. And that's why we can balance these sodium batteries at any point of time. It still doesn't make sense to me because we are charging all these cells with 1.1 amp and we are taking 30 milliamps away of this 1.1 amp from cell number 3. So cell number 3 gets a bit less current than all the other cells. And it will take a couple of cycles then actually to balance that, because we are taking only these 30 milliamps away. And we need to keep the current above 1 amp, which is insane because this is almost like 1C charging for these cells. That is not great. So, and here I'm measuring cell number 3. I've got the balance cables twice through my clamp, and we can measure like 60, 70 milliamps. Then it stops balancing, it starts again. So it is really like 30, 35 milliamps only what we are balancing here. Crazy. So we are now close to 3.95 volts. Cell number 2 is at 3.935. And then the BMS should shut off anyway. We are still charging with 1.1 amp into this battery. And deviation is at 40 millivolts, so it has actually slightly improved. But you can see it's not going crazy like in lithium iron phosphate when you charge higher. And the deviation rises and rises. This one here stays constant, pretty much constant. There we go, 3.95 volts, and the state of charge has reset to 100% in the DALI. That's what they all do. And now it has turned off the charge MOSFET, power supply is off until we reach, well, there's nothing to set. It is a fixed value the battery now needs to go down to, and then the charge MOSFETs will turn on again. There's nothing we can set up in this BMS here when the charger turns back on. And of course the balancer is not doing anything right now because there's no current going in. Stupid. It would be so easy and perfect to balance this battery right now when there's no current going through. So I have now quickly swapped the DALI BMS with the Jabata SP04S020, whatever that all means. It's a 4S 100 amp BMS, Bluetooth, and the balance cables actually fit from the DALI BMS. So that was a quick fix. And here we can already see that we are balancing even without charging. We are balancing cell number 1. How high, you are asking? Okay, that's a good question. Cell number 1, that's this one here. So we are balancing with 60, 40, 60, 70, I would say around 50 milliamps. Balance current 70 milliamps. That's not too bad actually for a passive balancer. Twice as much as the Dali. And this should be actually a sufficient balance current for this sodium battery here. So we've got a cell delta of 38 millivolt, 37. So the delta actually goes down. If we have a look in the settings here, it says actually balance only when charging. This is off. If I turn this one on and we write this back to the BMS and then we go back to the home screen, you will see that the balancer completely stops here as well. It is all a stupid thing with these BMSs here which have a charge balancer like in the 70s. But at least with the Jabata BMS you've got the choice. You can say I want to balance when I charge or I want to balance when I'm not charging. While here in the Dali BMS you've got no choice. It is turned on forever and it only balances when you are charging with over 1 amps with this BMS. Oh wow. So hey the team from Dali, why not give JBD a call and ask them how they came up with this brilliant idea to put a function switch into their app, so to give the customer the choice if they want to balance while charging or not. Yeah, just ring them up and ask. So it is now 5 p.m. exactly. So I would say let's give this 15 minutes and then we want to see if the delta, the voltage delta has actually decreased. We are at 35 millivolt at the moment, balancing cell number 1. This is the cell we have just charged. A bit too high apparently. Alright my friends, we have now 5:15, so 15 minutes. So the BMS has now balanced for 15 minutes and we now have a deviation of 24 millivolt or sometimes 18, 17 millivolt, now 20, depending on when it measures. 16 millivolt we have. So you can now see that this tiny balancer in this BMS here is actually able to keep this battery under control. But this was not the point of the test here actually. With lithium iron phosphate we always have to charge to 3.4, 3.45, 3.5 volts. There's no way to balance anywhere else with lithium iron phosphate batteries. We all know that. That's why we have to always fully charge these batteries to start balancing. Well, it's different with sodium batteries apparently because of the linear charge curve. This battery is fully charged at 3.85 volts now and well, let's change that. So I've already connected the EBC A20 tester to our battery here. We can see we've got 15.19 volts. And I'm now going to discharge the battery to 11.6, which will be 2.9 volts per cell if they're all balanced. And I'm using 3 amps of discharge current. Don't want to wait another hour here for this test to happen, so I want to bring down the battery quickly. So without further ado, let's get started. Yeah, it's pulling 3 amps now. Nice. I have also connected the temperature sensor to one of the batteries here and set the disconnect to 45 volts because as per specifications for these cells we can only discharge with 3C if we are not going over 45 degrees. I've just poked this cable there into a gap. It's not an accurate reading, but it's better than nothing. At the moment we've got like 30.8 degrees only. It shouldn't go to 45. Okay, let's give it 15-20 minutes and then we should be at 2.9 volts with the cells. And because it is 5:30 p.m, it is close to sunset, I think I will calibrate the SPET now. So thank you very much for all your generous donations to all these beautiful people who are donating to the channel, enabling these videos here and buying me a beer from time to time. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. I'll have one now. I have to wait anyway here. Good morning guys and welcome back to another wonderful and beautiful day here in the Off-Grid Garage in sunny Australia. It's not super hot. Well, what happened last night when I went for having a spat? We calibrated a spat and then one spat became 2. Then it was dinner time and afterwards we had a sparkling because it was our 15th anniversary here in sunny hot Australia. On the day. Yes, we are here in sunny hot Australia for 15 years now. Unbelievable. Yeah, and afterwards it was just too late and I had too many, so I couldn't do any testing here with the batteries anymore. Alright, so we have now reached the 11.6 volts pack voltage of our 4S Zolt battery, sodium battery. Okay, let's connect to the JBD 4S 100 amp. got 13 millivolt deviation, 2.9 volts. I need to create a bit of an imbalance with my light bulbs. Just for a moment. Oh yeah, 2.2 volts. Yeah, that goes really down. All right, let's see if it recovers. 2.8. Okay, give it a bit more. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. A bit of imbalance here at 2.9 volts. So we've got 100 millivolt deviation now. So if you go into the settings and we turn off the charge balancer, save, and we go back into the home screen, we can see the balancer has now turned on at 2.9 volts. Yeah, and we give this another 15 minutes here and see what the deviation is. It is around 85 millivolt at the moment. It is balancing cell number 1 and 3 because number 4 is a bit low. So let's give it 15 minutes and see what the result is. So, and now after around 15 minutes, we can see that the balancer has done a bit of work and we have a deviation of about 61 millivolt only. And you can also see that a passive balancer with 30 milliamps of balance current is struggling with a 1.3 ampere hour battery. Yeah, I mean, the delta has come down a bit, but over 15 minutes you would expect a bit more, just a better result. But the point here of this experiment was to show you that you can actually balance at the high top of the battery voltage, or in the middle of the battery voltage, or at the lower end of the battery voltage. It doesn't matter. You can always balance because we have this linear charge curve and discharge curve. Your cell voltage is tied to your state of charge. Okay, so we have now tested the DALI BMS and the JBD BMS, and what is left? Exactly. Yes, of course, the good old JK BMS is missing with an active balancer. We just want to see the difference between the passive balancing of the DALI BMS and the JBD BMS and compare this to the active balancing of the JK BMS. This is actually the smallest JK BMS you can buy. It is the it is a BD4A8S4P. So this is a 0.4 amp active balancer. It is a 4S to 8S BMS. And it has 40 amps of continuous current. It says it all here. There you have it. And these BMSs are super brilliant for small projects. 12 volt, 24 volt batteries. You can use them with lithium iron phosphate batteries, our Palo batteries, or 18650 NMC batteries, lithium ion. And they even work with LTO batteries. You can connect the display. It comes with a power switch, Bluetooth connectivity, and of course the 400 milliamp active balancing. And you can get them on AliExpress for under $40. I mean, come on. Really, why would you buy any other BMS? 40 bucks. Okay, let's see if this one fires up. It does. Have a look in the GKONG app. Here it is, BD4A8S4P, that's the one. Click to view alarms. I think it wants me to modify my password. I'm not doing this right now. Okay, settings. Password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the beginning. Okay, cell count is 4. Okay, battery capacity, it doesn't matter. 1.3. Okay, it doesn't even do it. 1.1 ampere hour. Okay, it takes 10, whatever. Let's have a quick look at the settings. Oh, so this BMS has actually a state of charge 100% voltage and a state of charge 0% voltage trigger. Nice. And we can see here the start balance voltage is at 3 volts and we balance with 0.4 amps. So I probably set this one to 0.1 amps only. Oh, it doesn't go any further down than 0.3 amps, obviously. 0.1. No, 0.3 is the lowest. Okay, well, we will have a very quick balancing here. So we are under 3 volts, so the balancer is not kicking in at the moment. We've got a deviation currently of 59 millivolt. Okay, then let's set this one here to 2.0 volts. And we should now see the balancer is working. Deviation 56, 57. Obviously it is pumping these 0.3 amps now into cell number 4, which we have discharged with the light bulbs before. So at the moment it is discharging cell number 1, 2 and 3. You can see the blue numbers flashing. And once the balanced current turns positive, we will discharge this energy back into cell number 4. And then we should see the cell voltage difference going down very quickly. We're still charging the internal capacitors now. Balanced current is 150 milliamps. Okay, now it is switching over and now it is charging cell number 4. 0.3 amps we can see, and look at the deviation, under 50 millivolt. It is charging up cell number 4 now. Okay, I would say let's give this 15 minutes as well, and then we see the result and talk about it. Alright, and now after close to 15 minutes we can see that we have a deviation of 12 millivolt only. I've also seen the balancer even stopping because we have reached the goal of 10 millivolt. Now, see, 8 millivolt deviation and the balancer has stopped. So even here with these small battery cells, the active balancer is the better choice. And it completely balances such a small battery within 15 minutes at any voltage. So now we have seen the passive balancer and the active balancer in comparison with this sodium battery here. And of course the active balancer wins. But this was not the purpose of the test. Again, I wanted to show that you can balance at any voltage here. You don't need to wait until the battery is fully charged to do a top balance. You can balance your sodium battery at any point of time. But here's also why you should not do that. Let me get, hang on, the good old whiteboard, right? Okay, so this is our 4S battery here, cell number 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have them all in series connected and we charge them. So the charge current is the same for all cells, right? But now these cells, they are not 100% the same. We have an internal resistance, which is obviously different between all these cells. So that means while we are charging or discharging, it doesn't really matter, the losses in each of these cells is not the same. They are different because we have a different internal resistance. Higher internal resistance means higher heat loss. The difference is very small, but over time this accumulates and then the voltage of your 4 cells will be different. But I guess this is exactly what the balancer is for, right? To neutralize these difference in internal resistance, heat loss and voltage. And the balancer, regardless if it's a passive balancer or an active balancer, will be totally fine with this small difference in internal resistance and voltage difference we get over time. It can sort it out, it can regulate it, it can keep the battery balanced. But there's also a second factor, which is capacity. The capacity of these cells is not the same. We have a delta here as well. Alright, so here's a bit of an example. We've got 4 sodium batteries in series. 100 ampere hour, 100 ampere hour. This one has only 90. This one has 100 ampere hours as well. And because the cells are all in series, we have a main capacity here of 90 ampere hours for the whole battery. We cannot take more than 90 ampere hours out of this battery because cell number 3 doesn't give more. This is the minimum. The cell with the minimum capacity determines the capacity of the whole battery. So now let's say you've got these batteries new, you put them all in series, and you do a balancing at 3.1 volts. Yeah, we're talking about sodium batteries, not lithium iron phosphate, sodium. There. So you balance your pack at 3.1 volts, as we have just seen. Totally possible, no trouble at all. Active or passive balancer, everything is fine. So now you start charging a battery. You charge it up to 3.7, 3.8 volt. So all cells are getting the same current. And you will see at probably 3.8 volts or something, what's happening here now? Your balancing is destroyed. Because this battery has a lower capacity, it reaches 3.9 volts earlier. Yeah, gets charged with the same amount of current, but reaches the maximum capacity earlier. It has only 90 ampere hours. So now the balancer would kick in and would discharge this battery, right? Because it's too high. And eventually it succeeds and brings down this cell to 3.8 volts as well. Perfect. And what have you done now? Exactly, you have done a top balancing. Yeah, 3.8 volts, this is like 90% of the overall capacity of your cells, and you've done a top balancing. So now what? You start discharging. And now you discharge the battery again to 3.1 volts. But your cell number 3 is at 3 volts only, because you have taken energy away. It was balanced at 3.1 volts, then you fully charged it, took energy of this cell away, and now this energy is missing. So what happens now? So now your balancer would kick in and starts discharging these 3 cells, because this is your lowest, it doesn't touch this one. And if you would further discharge this battery to 2.5 volts per cell now, it will still keep discharging these 3 cells here, because this is your lowest. It's just trying to balance all 4 cells. And this is repeating all the time then. When you charge and discharge, when you cycle, when you use your battery, it constantly balances either your cell number 3, which is your low capacity cell, or it balances the other ones when you discharge because they are too high. The balancer will never stop working. With a passive balancer, you burn all this energy into heat. So over time, you're losing a considerable amount of energy. You're just burning it. You connect a resistor to your cell and discharge it. Even with an active balancer, you probably have like between, I would say, 40 to 60% efficiency. You're still losing a lot of energy in heat loss. So even from a technical perspective, we can balance sodium batteries at any voltage. This is precisely related to your state of charge. You should not do that because of exactly that. The balancer would be constantly working, constantly, because your cells are different. They don't have the same capacity. Never, ever. So, and I think this is why it is important, even with sodium batteries, you just do a top balancing. You bring your cells to a 3.8 volts, balance them, and then let it go. When the battery is discharging then, cell number 3 will determine your overall capacity of the battery. If this one gets low, the BMS will shut down at some stage because cell number 3 is completely discharged. There's still energy in the other 3 cells, of course, but the lowest one, well, if your lowest capacity cell is empty, that's it for the whole battery. And I've read this comment many times under my videos that people suggest, well, now the active balancer can use the energy of these 3 remaining cells and put this all into the low capacity cell, and we can use this whole battery for longer. And this scenario actually works if you have a battery with a very small load connected. Yeah, if you think about the 16S battery, one of them is low and all the other ones are putting the energy into this low battery cell, because my load is 50 amps at the moment. So I'm still pulling these 50 amps of this low voltage battery, right? And to prevent the BMS from shutting down because of this one cell, we would need all the other cells charging this battery with at least 50 amps as well, so it does not further discharge and triggers the BMS to disconnect the whole battery. So you would need a balancer with 50 amp of balance current. Well, and if my load is 100 amps, you would need a balancer with 100 amps of balance current. So as you can see, while this method works in theory, it is not practical. As I said, it works with very small loads. If you have only a load of 1 amp, a 1 amp balancer would do that, and we could prevent this cell from triggering the BMS. And this also implies that we keep the balancer running all the time, from very low voltage up to the very high voltage, and it's constantly balancing out your batteries. And it seems like sodium or NMC batteries are the perfect candidate for that, because of the linear charge and discharge curve. Again, in theory, it looks good, but it is not practical. Yeah, with this active balancer of 0.4 amps, my load can only be 0.4 amps here. Then in theory, it would still work. But then we are also adding other factors, because the JK BMS balances only 1 cell at a time. And as you have seen in the test before, it discharges cell number 1, 2 and 4 for quite a while until the internal capacitor is charged, and only then dumps this energy into cell number 3. And while it is discharging the cells with a higher voltage, our cell number 3, our weak cell, is still getting discharged. So unfortunately this method will never work. So this is all very technical, but to sum this all up, I would not recommend to always balance sodium batteries. Even it is tempting with the linear voltage curves, and here as well the good old top balancing will save the day. Top balance your sodium battery at 3.8 volts. And then maybe let the balancer kick in at 3.5 or 3.6 volts. And if you discharge your sodium battery further, stop balancing. Okay, my friends, so far this video from today talking about balancing sodium batteries. It looks very easy and tempting, but as we have seen, it is not that easy. There's quite a bit to consider. And from my perspective, it seems like a top balancing is still the way to go here. But leave your comments down below under the video. I'm always keen to read them. How would you balance your sodium battery? Active, passive, at what voltage would you start? Very, very low, or in the middle, or at the high point? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Because, I don't know, this is just what I test here, what I come up with. But maybe you've got another idea? Well, please share it down below. I'm sure many people are interested to read it. Okay guys, so far this video from today. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all your great support for the 2 calibrated spats last night. Thank you very much to all these beautiful people. Also, thank you very much for 81,000. I think it's a bit over already. 81,000 subscribers. Jeez, that causes me headaches sometimes. And until the next video, guys, when we do another test with the 12-volt sodium battery here. Until then, guys, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks again for watching. See you then. Bye-bye. Yeah, the good old sodium batteries. Look at this cute BMS, huh? It's a 40 amp BMS JK. I'll link it down below as well. Very nice, I like it. It's as big as my palm.